Now we're going to have a few very fast fire chats with a couple of people here on the stage. So let me introduce them. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, we're going to speak from the vision to reality, the rise of Al in biotech. And the first person I would like to invite here on the stage, Arūnas Public and private sector lead at Albus, Lithuania. Hello, sveiki. And with him also here on the very stage, Laurynas Karpus. Laurynas, please welcome on the stage. It's great hearing you clap for those people. He's a co-founder and CEO of Biomatter Designs. So, guys, hope you're ready. All right, Let's begin.
Thank you. So, hi everyone. My name is Arūnas. This is my new friend Laurynas, and we'll just have a very nice chat today. Hope you enjoy it. And if you have anything very important to ask us, please do. But if you don't, then we'll just go by ourselves. So, Laurynas, your startup. What can you tell about it? And most importantly is how it is unique in protein engineering, and what do you do with artificial intelligence, with AI, and how actually did you come to the place you are today?
Yeah, thanks. So at Biomatter Designs, we accelerate protein engineering in the intersection of synthetic biology and artificial intelligence. So in essence, protein engineering is a field in which you take natural proteins that appear in nature and then engineer them, change their structure in order for them to have better properties, for better therapeutics, better manufacturing enzymes, and so on. And you also, if you're very good at it, you can create new enzymes or proteins which do not exist in nature at all.
Okay.
But the problem with protein engineering is that it's extremely difficult. Our knowledge of what we should change in a protein to make it better is still very limited. For that reason, if you would take, for example, a protein structure, and I would ask, what should we change here to make it better? Most oftenly, the answer would be, we don't know. We should try, 10,000 things and see what sticks. So in Biomatter Designs, we develop artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence, which allows us to learn from natural protein data. And by that, our machine learning helps us to learn the underlying rules that govern protein function. And after that, we can use that knowledge to create new, better proteins. So 2 years ago, we did our proof of concept. So we built our first version of our platform, and we have showed that the proteins that we build in the computational space can be transferred into laboratory, and the synthetic proteins that are in no way like natural ones produce the intended function. So this is why and when the Biomatter Design started.
Okay, and you recently attracted quite an investment.
Right. So in 2020, we have raised our seed round, and that helps us just accelerate everything.
Okay. How much did you attract?
$500,000.
Oh, congratulations to you. Applause, please.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, but from your own perspective and from the perspective of your business, do you see a trend that everything about biotechnology and artificial intelligence is a bit on a trend because of the COVID situation? And has it explicably had any impact on your business?
So directly, I'd say COVID did not have a lot of impact to our business. So as I mentioned, we have definitely raised a round in 2020, but we have prepared for that beforehand. But I think COVID did one thing, is that it highlighted the importance of investment in biotech, because when the situation is, let's say, very harsh, we must have good enough technologies to produce the therapeutics and the vaccines as quickly as possible. And if we do not invest in biotech, and even at the academia level, we will not have those required speeds.
Okay. But what do you see the biggest challenges in terms of attracting investment and so on? Is it, I don't know, maybe too geeky a sector for investors to actually understand what they are investing into?
Yeah, so it's definitely important to be able to explain everything clearly. But in biotech, most often, that's not the problem. The problem is to have a good proof of concept that actually works, because the science is difficult and it takes a long time to develop. So usually what you sell, at least in the very beginning, especially in the biopharmaceuticals, you sell more of a vision, a promise. And when you raise the money, you build on that. So in our case, we were a bit lucky because we had the proof of concept before our initial investment. But most often than not, you more sell the vision at the beginning, and then you need a long research time to develop the end products.
Okay, well, I will just go back to my first question, actually. So what were the biggest challenges for your startup to come to what you basically are today, quite a successful startup in biotech?
Yeah, so I think the main issue in general for biotech is the data. So if you would think about only the AI segment of the biotech. So in biotech, when you work with images, you have problems with data. You think you have problems with data. But in biotech, there's so many verticals in which the data is just not right for your application. So for example, you collect data in experiments, in biological experiments. So in those, you have so many variables. So from experiment to experiment, you must be very robust to recreate these conditions so you can later reduce the data in one pit and all together. And also, if you collect the data with living organisms, such as bacteria, that means they're intrinsically produce very noisy data. So it's very challenging to streamline the collection of the data and make it usable in the end. So I think this is the main challenge, at least for us.
Okay, so data is a universal challenge for all AI startups.
Yep.
And then funding. But do you think that these challenges will somehow shift in the future? I mean, do you believe that data will become more available or open, or maybe it will start raining with money at some point for AI startups, and especially in biotech?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. And the important thing to consider is, if you would take 15 years ago, application of AI in biotech would not have been so much possible. In the last 2 decades, both academia and biopharma has streamlined a lot of processes. They automated a lot of data acquisition. And during that time, we have collected just enormous amounts of data. And it's right now that we have seen, how much data do we have, and that we should, do something with it. So I don't think we could have done it 20 years ago, but I believe that in 20 years, it's just going to be the norm. It's going to be standard to use that data to produce accelerated research and products.
Okay, back to your business. So why do you think that your protein engineering as a solution, as a sector, has this special perspective, and how much it actually costs to deliver the protein from your from the data to the laboratory and vice versa?
So to answer the first part of your question, I believe that protein engineering is a special perspective for few reasons. So first of all, as I mentioned earlier, it's the immense challenge of understanding of how do proteins tick, how do they function, how do we create new ones that, for example, can be better therapeutics. So if we can answer this question, and with the help of excellent researchers, machine learning, physical models, if we can answer this question, this opens the door to completely flexible protein design. So that means if we have a disease that we want to target, it doesn't take half a year to design the new protein, or if we need an enzyme for some sort of manufacturing purpose, we can have it the next day. So this is why I think there's just enormous potential in that. And to answer your second part of the question, what does this cost to transfer everything from laboratory to computational side of things? So I think the biggest price for us is not using the algorithms themselves to produce protein, but what it takes to validate those algorithms. Because if you take like an image domain, you classify cats, and you can clearly see, at least you can have good metrics of what does it mean that this algorithm performs well. When you generate proteins computationally, you cannot look at the computer and say, this will work. Because if we had the metrics for that, this wouldn't have been a problem. So what we need to do is we need to generate proteins in our computers or our servers. We need to transfer that and make these proteins in the laboratory, and then we need to characterize them. So the whole laboratory cycle of checking them can take months for a few hundred proteins, and also cost a significant amount of investment.
Okay. Going to startups, I think we can see the trend that there are quite a lot of biotech startups, especially the ones which do something with artificial intelligence, start with a big bang, a lot of promotion, everyone knows about it, and then they are gone. Why do you think that happens?
So if focusing specifically in biotech, I think there are a few reasons for that. So first of all, I think we have a lot of successful biotech companies that apply AI. So even though we have, let's say, companies like in food sector and agriculture, so I think these are the companies that are most sensitive to fail, because even though you create or develop the best biotech product you can, so for example, you develop the product for 5 years. From scientific perspective, it's spectacular. The product you produce is to a molecular level the best product that can be, the most healthy product. And you pass, let's say in US, you pass the FDA, but then you have another problem. You have the consumer that will either pick that product or will not pick that product because, let's say, it was made in, let's say, laboratory, or it was genetically modified. Despite the fact that it's, in theory, it's the best thing for you, but it requires, a shift in the mindset, and that requires a lot of investment in that to educate people.
Yeah. So basically, what you say that at some point marketing is as much as important as the product itself.
Exactly. Well, okay, we can call it marketing, but also, just educational material of, what it is that is that product. So this is why I think a lot of companies, can fail at that point.
Yeah, just to illustrate, we're talking about laboratory-grown steaks, for example.
Sure.
Yeah. For the people who understand.
Or genetically modified, crops or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. And how do you suppose people could be educated about this? I mean, the usual ways could take quite a lot of time, maybe too long for the product to be successful in the future.
Yep. So this is why from our perspective, it's not that much of an issue. So we're not in food and we're not in let's say agriculture. But I think for the companies that are, it's probably just as important to start with that from the first steps, as long as you work with the whole R&D to produce that. So you just need to start at the very beginning.
So basically, you have to grow your customer together with your own product.
Right. I think it takes tremendous amount of time. Yeah.
Okay. And another question about the burdens then. Does the legislative environment have any impact on your business?
directly to ours, I'd say no. But generally in biotech, definitely. And it's a two-way street. So again, if we're talking about more of a consumer-related products, it's always a two-way street. So the legislative, often follows the majority of public's opinion. So if it's safe, it doesn't mean it's going to be allowed. Yes, there's definitely problems in that. And the best we can do to fix it is to first build the best products that we can, healthy products, products that actually are working. And then the second step is to just change the point of view.
But do you believe that in terms of artificial intelligence in general, not the general artificial intelligence, do you believe that the mythology around it, like at least what we usually hear in public, that it will take our jobs, it will make decisions for us, probably bad ones, of course, it will create Skynet, take over the world, use us as batteries and so on, the usual stuff. Do you believe that this mythology is actually, the most negative part of the communication towards any product with artificial intelligence?
I don't believe so. I think the end product is what consumers see anyways. So I think this trend of not believing in that AI is useful or thinking that it will be dangerous or steal jobs, it's kind of I don't think there's a real danger in that. So we always have a cycles of job automation and etc. So first, I don't think that you would lose customers just because you produce your product with the help of AI. And secondly, I think humans always find a way. So even if the AI would automate everything, we would still have plenty to do.
But if I can pick your mind a bit more here, we are going into the hard talk territory now. Biotech and artificial intelligence, it probably triggers a few ethical questions in your path. What are the biggest ethical issues you actually trigger in your way?
So again, from our perspective, the design of proteins in itself is not a design of new life. So here we avoid a lot of the dangers of ethics. And I say danger because it's sometimes there's not a right answer to that. Of course, in biotech more generally, there's a lot of talk about genetically modifying life from single cellular organisms up to humans. So where is the line? What if we take genetic engineering, for example? What is the line to draw on what should we be able to do with DNA editing, for example? Is it to only treat diseases, or can it be also used to, for example, increase muscle mass? So it's a blurry line. But it's definitely at least worth discussing about it and just going deep into discussions so it is at least known. And when it finally happens, it's not a shock to anyone.
Okay. Okay. It's enough of the hard questions. Let's go back to startups. And also another question about the general, about artificial intelligence in general. What do you believe are the most promising fields of business with artificial intelligence for startups to pursue in the upcoming few years?
So I think I'm going to be biased here, but I think the biotech sector and life sciences sector is one of the most underutilized with machine learning right now. And that's natural because it's extremely difficult with the data that experiments are producing. So I just see so much potential in that. But also I think moving more from life sciences and towards medtech, I think imaging and image analysis is, of course, booming right now, and we have examples of that in Lithuania. So I think that will reach, full market growth before biotech for sure.
Okay, but do you consider yourself a Lithuanian startup, and do you have any plans of running away from here?
Of course, we're not running away. So Biomatter Designs is definitely start in Vilnius University actually. So we cannot run away from our roots, and we don't want to. But we are definitely going to expand in the future. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we are very glad to have you here. And the last question is for all those who have ideas about biotech and artificial intelligence. What would your top 3 recommendations would be for such people to pursue their dreams and start a business?
So I think first thing would be if you think you have an idea, share with someone, because at least in the biotech and life sciences, more of a fundamental sciences, we tend to have good ideas and keep it to them ourselves and think this is the best idea ever. But once you talk with a few professors, a few mentors, a few friends, you can see that maybe it's not such a good idea. So secondly, what you would want to do is, after you validate that, okay, maybe this is a good idea, you should definitely talk to the end client, because maybe that client will tell you, we don't need this solution, everything is fine. And then the third would be, I think, directed to every colleague in biotech and life sciences, and any other more of fundamental science, is that make sure your science is robust. Do not skip any stones in validating your technology, because yes, science is difficult and tends to have a lot of issues and problems along the way. But you should definitely make sure that at least science before the product is completely trustworthy.
And I'll add one more. I think what you said before is a very good recommendation for any startup with AI would be to secure the data as early as possible.
Definitely.
Okay. So to wrap it up, just a very short question. What would be, in your opinion, the greatest artificial intelligence in biotech idea in the whole world at the moment, which is already being done?
Design proteins with artificial intelligence.
So you are doing it already. Thank you, Laurynas. I hope everyone enjoyed our chat, and see you later, guys.